Broadcasting from the Cass Corridor in Detroit, this is The Metro. I'm Robin Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham. Today on the program, committees, commissions, and task force. We hear these terms all of the time, but what do they really mean for Detroiters?
Plus, the Skillman Foundation has invested millions into Detroit education. But does philanthropy have the power to shift systemic inequities?
And we'll explore Paulcella, where the soundtrack is playful, but the deeper message addresses Detroit's crowded shelters and the animals still waiting backstage.
Also, Michigan added residents this year. Could these numbers point toward lasting momentum?
But first, the Detroit Institute of Arts, like so many arts organizations, have had to grapple with spaces that haven't been as inclusive as they could be. Oftentimes, the question is posed, who gets to preserve art and in whose image, and who gets access to it? For the first time in my adult life, I saw myself reflected back at me at the DIA. Tiff Massey's 7 Mile and Livernois exhibit wasn't just an exhibit. It was an event for the culture. The exhibit represented Black Detroit in some of its most raw forms. But how did we get to this point in Detroit where a young Black Detroiter got a year-long solo exhibit? Back in 2015, the organization responded to some critics who thought the DIA and other art institutions could do better to serve Detroit and Metro Detroit. So it created its Talent and Diversity Subcommittee, and a few years later, in 2020, created its Inclusion, Diversity, and Access, or IDEA strategy. Now in 2025, the DIA has been working to create more inclusive spaces for all of Detroit, with exhibits like 7 Mile and Livernois and the Wayne County High School Art Exhibition. Joining us in studio to talk a little bit more about the accessibility of the DIA is Museum Director Salvador Salort-Pons and Exhibit Curator Katie Fowl. Thank you both so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thanks so much. We're happy to be here.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yes, of course. So Salvador, Tiff Massey's exhibit drew massive attention and community engagement. What did the success of her work teach you about the appetite of Detroit audiences, especially looking for homegrown Black artists?
I think the exhibition was very successful because it really engaged the community in ways that we never seen before. And what was very relieving for me was the fact that the community took over the museum and really used the museum to explore the talent of Detroit, to have fun, and to celebrate Detroit artistic talent.
And Salvador, this is a little, random thing, but I've been recently watching a little bit about the 90s fashion, and they were talking about the Met Gala and the rise of the Met Gala to what we see today, and how it was once just something for the industry insiders, and then it grew to something a lot bigger and massive, and it just decided to change. Anna Wintour decided to change it. Can you talk about that deciding of change? You had to change.
Yeah, change is good. I think we need to listen to the community. The community provides amazing feedback, and the community is our number one customer. So we want to provide services that meet the needs of the community and reflect that community back in ways they feel proud about the organization, and we celebrate their artistic talent.
Yeah. And Salvador, Tiff Massey's exhibit was important for so many reasons, so many other reasons. Like I told you, I saw myself reflected back in it. But it was culturally authentic. It elevated Black representation. How does the DIA plan to embed these values into future exhibits?
That's a great question. And this is very much present in our working life in the museum. One of the things that we are doing now that I'm very excited is the reinstallation of our African-American galleries. We're going to place them at the center of the visitor experience at the DIA next to the Diego Rivera murals. And we're going to do something no other organization in the country has done, which is to tell the history of African-American art and culture like you are reading a textbook. So you will go into the first and second and third and fourth gallery the same way that you would go into the first chapter, the second chapter. And this is very important for us because what we want is that people who come to the DIA, the schools, the general visitors who enjoy our great Rivera murals, then go into the African-American galleries and get the story right, with the facts right.
Yes. And Salvador, if you could speak candidly about the internal conversations that you and your team were able to have when you were deciding to do the Tiff Massey exhibit. I know that it wasn't something that was easy, I guess, to try to talk through to folks and let them understand what you all were deciding to do when you decided to bring on 7 Mile and Livernois.
I think what was, I wouldn't say not easy, was we had a huge opportunity in front of us because we had so much talent. Katie Fowler, the curator of the show, presented a number of artists that we were interested in. It was difficult to choose. Yeah. And I think we went with presentation that really allowed the museum to meet two important goals. One was to present with all force Detroit's talent, was Tiff Massey's art. And two, to engage the community with the work, not only at the intellectual level, but also at the emotional level.
Yes, which is something that we often talk about, is you have to hit folks where they are, and sometimes it is just at an emotional level. Katie, bringing you into the conversation, because you're the lead curator.
Yes, yeah, I was so lucky to work on the show.
So that's an amazing opportunity, like you just said. Talk a little bit about that and bringing Tiff Massey in and just working on that idea.
Yeah, so I'm new to the museum. I've been at the museum now for just about 3 years.
Okay.
And one of the first things I did when I got here is realized the incredible talent of artists in the city and the opportunity to really present an artist's work on a brand new scale. And I think encountering Tiff and her work, I was so inspired by the scale and vision of her work, but also the ways that, as you say it, represented such a fundamental understanding of the creative force and energy of this city, and these incredible large-scale jewelry works that just occupy the museum. And I think that was the thing that was really special about the show, is that the work stood up to and against the giant architecture of the museum, and as you said, made people feel so seen and represented. But also, Tiff is an artist. She's someone who's combining music and thinking so deeply about Detroit as a place, metalsmithing connected to histories of the factory, as well as flair and adornment and culture and style. And I just felt like she's our quintessential Detroit artist, and to show her at this scale felt unbelievable.
And it's amazing to have someone, like you just said, quintessentially Detroit. She is through and through. So she's a representation of what a lot of us dress like, walk like, talk like, the way we embody ourselves. A lot of it is, you can see it in Tiff Massey. So it's an amazing representation to have, especially within the arts community. Excuse me. Allergy season. But Katie, I do want to talk to you a little bit more about just connecting with the community. Did you expect to see the reception that you saw from Tiff Massey's 7 Mile Livernois exhibit?
I mean, it's what every museum dreams of, right? That a show will just catch fire in that way. And I think it's what we hoped for. But I also think, I think I can speak for the museum in saying we were just in awe at the generosity of the city in kind of receiving Tiff's invitation with the show and entering the museum the way that they did. And I think a big piece of that was the way that the show, it wasn't just about art. It was about art and fashion, art and music, art and culture. And I think it just hit so many different registers for folks. And these DJ events that we did for the show, these weren't just we're going to have a DJ come. They were part of the exhibition experience and part of the vision. And, even on that closing night when we had over 4,000 people come into the museum, occupy the space in this beautiful way, we also had folks wait almost 2 hours to see the show. And I just thought, if there isn't a better representation about what art can do in community and how museums can be spaces of and for community, I mean, it's the thing that you dream happens every time you make a show. So,
I mean, Katie, like I said, I've been recently watching a documentary on Hulu just about the expanding of different institutions, whether it's fashion or art or music, and bringing those all together. And hearing you talk about that, and I'm just thinking once again about change, because change was needed across the board. It's still needed across the board, but you all took a chance, and that chance wasn't an easy chance to take, and it clearly paid off for you all to take that chance. But Katie, I do want you to just talk a little bit more about those concrete steps it took for the DIA to ensure that they had, or you all have, more Detroit-based Black artists to receive that level of notoriety, that level of support, that level of visibility as Tiff Massey received?
I mean, I think there's a couple things that are special about the show and the model of the show. And one of the things I think we all feel really proud of is that we commissioned Tiff to create a number of works for the exhibition, meaning it was also an invitation to her to dream bigger than she'd been able to before. The giant necklace work that's in that exhibition, we helped facilitate the creation and construction of that work. It was an aspiration she had for years. And I hope, in the future that this is really something that the museum can do, that we can take some of our best artists from this city and put them in the same conversation as artists nationally and even internationally, because I've only been here for 3 years, but the quality and scope and scale of the art community here, it deserves to be seen at the DIA, but also to have the DIA really take these artists and put them at the same level as any other artist that we'd show anywhere in the world.
Where are you from?
I am originally from New York, but I moved here from New Orleans.
Okay, so you've been around and you've been in some places with some flavor here and there, so you've been able to experience different ways that Black culture and other cultures express themselves within different areas of our country. So Detroit, like you said, you've been here 3 years. What's our art scene like?
I mean, I think the thing that's really special about this city is the community nature of the arts. When I got here, it was just beautiful to see, how artists supported each other, the ways they connect with each other. I remember the first show that I went to and I saw artists buying other artists' work. And I just thought, what a beautiful reflection.
Is that rare?
I think that's somewhat rare to really see the ways that artists mentor each other, support each other. But I also think, this city, to me, has one of the most interesting American stories of anywhere. And the ways that artists draw upon this, whether they're painters or sculptors or musicians or what have you, I think is really incredible. And I think the other thing, and this I think partly came from my time in New Orleans as well, the way that creativity flows between art and music and community culture and creative expression. And I think that was something this show really captured. Sometimes, at museums, we'd put a painting on the wall. And this was really about sculpture flowing into community connection, flowing into these amazing DJ sets, and thinking about the ways that artists are these creative beings across the board, and the way that art is a form of community expression. And I think that, Tiff is incredible in that way, and the show really hit that.
Man, I can literally rave and rave and rave about the excitement I felt when I was scrolling social media from the first installment of 7 Mile Livernois. Before you did the closing, it was different events, and I thought, how did I miss this? How did I miss this on my radar? And then I saw the next one, and I said, okay, hold on. I think I'm missing something here. And I finally went to the closing event, and I thought, this is something that's so special. I don't think that institutions across the country understand what just happened here. So, this is an amazing thing that happened in the city of Detroit, but this is the Metro you're listening to. We're talking about the success of Tiff Massey's 7 Mile and Livernois exhibit and how the DIA plans to replicate its success. Our guests are Salvador Salort-Pons and he's a museum director, and exhibit curator Katie Fall. Thank you so much, both of you guys, for joining us right now. But Salvador, I do want to bring you back into the conversation. What barriers right now do you see that institutions are facing, especially like the DIA, when committing to long-term investments in emerging artists like Tiff Massey, who's not necessarily emergent anymore, but emerging artists, emerging Black artists especially? What type of barriers do you see the DIA addressing?
Well, the barrier that we all have is the resources. We have to find the resources, but we can find them, and we are deploying resources to support Detroit talent and artists from the city, the region, and the entire state. That's our mission. We want to be a place for them, and we want them to have them in our galleries. It could be exhibitions, but also acquisitions. And we are announcing that we have acquired one of the great works that Tiff Massey did for the show. So Baby Bling will be part of our collection.
That is so amazing to even think about, that she's going to be there just permanently. And talk about as well having her being one of the youngest people to have a solo exhibit at the DIA.
I think she's the youngest.
Oh, wow.
This is what I like. We have we were talking about barriers and resources, and I don't see barriers as something negative. I see them as an opportunity for finding solutions with creativity, and the museum is about creativity, and artists are about creativity. we were able to do a phenomenal Van Gogh exhibition, bringing 74 Van Goghs from all over the world, and that was an incredible effort. But we are also able to do a Tiff Massey exhibition where we have found and support for a significant amount of funds to create this show, commission the works from the artists, and end up buying a masterpiece.
It's amazing, once again, to think about, because I went to high school at the Henry Ford Museum, so I've always been around the museum culture, and just to see the embracing of Black culture within the DIA has been really, really refreshing to see. So once again, talking about DIA, talking about just inclusivity, making sure that the city of Detroit's represented, but Metro Detroit's represented. You all, Salvador, you all have so many other great things that you all bring into the DIA, not just the Tiff Massey exhibit, but you also have live performances, you have music, you have so many different things that are happening. Can you talk about the other ways you all have been able to put your footprint into the community?
Absolutely. Last May, we celebrated Asian American and Pacific Islander Month, and it was unbelievable. It was great to see the community come from all over the Tri-County area and beyond, and that is something that we're very happy to do because it really energizes the museum, brings new people into the organization. Now, in September, we are opening a very important show for us. The museum has not done a Native American exhibition for over 30 years, and we have been working with the Great Lakes tribes, the Anishinaabe, working with them to create an amazing show of contemporary Anishinaabe art that is going to be open for several months, and is going to be free for everyone who comes to the museum. I just want to remind everybody that you are a resident of Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb County. General admission to the museum is free for all of you.
Which I love. I mean, honestly, I know you can't get too much into the new exhibit that'll be jumping. Are you working on that one, Katie?
No, this is being curated by a colleague of mine at the Museum Janine de Quintal.
Nice. So I know you can't get too much into it, but if you could give us a little bit more information about this exhibit that'll be coming up, because this is really exciting exhibit. 30 years you haven't had representation in the exhibit of Native Americans. So talk about that.
Well, we've been working with the tribes for a couple of years very closely, where they have been working with our curator, Dr. Janine de Quintal, to really shape up an exhibition that is going to have amazing quality in terms of works of art, but also is going to share amazing messages about the Anishinaabe and how they've been engaging with contemporary art and how that fits very well into an encyclopedic collection like the DIA has.
Yeah, I mean, once again, this idea of expanding what and who art is and who it represents and who who creates it and who has access to it has always been the conversation when we talk about these institutions. So, I do want to talk to you, Katie, about that fact. Institutions have for a long time not as been as inclusive as they could be. You've come in, you say, I see the work, I see what's happening on the ground, I see what the community is resonating with. This is what needs to be up on the walls. This is what needs to be represented. Talk about just that, you being that little catalyst there.
Well, I mean, this is what I think, honestly. I mean, I think that we're at a critical inflection point in our culture in which museums have a profound opportunity, but also an obligation to really reflect the community that we're in. And that means a lot of things. That means acquiring more work and supporting more work by artists within our community, which we're doing really actively right now, not just Tiff, but other artists. And it also means really thinking about what are the issues, questions, ideas, things that really resonate with the city, and who are the artists all over the world that we can bring to the museum to kind of energize and inspire those conversations. And I think, museums are in some ways such imperfect vessels for this work, right? These are places that have been really uninclusive. They're places that are steeped in all these histories of colonialism. But they're also, to me, and this is what gets me up every morning, these are like profound spaces of gathering in our culture. These are spaces that I think can be like civic spaces. And for me as a curator to think like, I can put two artists next to each other and create a conversation that might never happen in real life, but that could help us think about ways that we're all connected. To me, I mean, I think there's almost no better place to kind of spark the imagination about the world that we're all trying to create. And that couldn't be more important now. And so I take really seriously this idea of like, not just, what we're showing, but how we're showing it, the stakeholders we're inviting into conversation with it, and how we can really invite artists to be collaborators with us to just remake these institutions from the ground up, because I think that's where the work is and also the opportunity.
Oh, man. And before I let you both go, Salvador, you mentioned earlier that you were going to acquire Tiff Massey's work as part of the DIA's permanent collection. Where will it be, and what works are you acquiring? One more time.
We are acquiring Baby Bling. And, I'm very excited about this. And this will be on view in our, I hope, and Katie's been preparing the reinstallation of our contemporary wing. And I think it will be part of the reinstallation. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Katie for the amazing work that she's done for the museum. And when the organization is able to hire people with her talent, we really are in a position of success. And Tiff Massey happened because Katie was on our team, and I'm just so thankful to her.
Yes, thank you both so much for joining us on the Metro today. Salvador Salor-Pons is the director of the Detroit Institute of Arts. Kaylee Fole is an exhibit curator at the DIA and also the curator of Tiff Massey's 7 Mile Livernois exhibit. Thank you both so much for joining us on the Metro. Looking forward to hearing more about the exhibit happening in September.
Thank you. We'll be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for the great conversation.
Coming up, Michigan's population increased slightly from 2023 to 2024. An expert breaks down whether we should rejoice or what we need to do to increase that number. We'll be right back on the Metro. You all stay right there.